Hey man, here's the truth. Most men miss when a woman actually likes you. She will almost never show it in the way you expect. She won't walk up to you and confess it. She won't make it obvious. Instead, she hides it, masks it, covers it up with games, distractions, and contradictions. Why? Because her entire value, in her eyes, rests on being pursued. The second she shows her hand, she feels like she loses leverage. That's why so many men get confused. They look at a woman they think is cold or uninterested, only to find out later she was secretly drawn to them the whole time. Women don't show it when they like you, because for them liking a man openly feels like weakness, and weakness to her is dangerous. From the earliest years, women are taught, sometimes directly, sometimes indirectly, that a man must chase, a man must prove, a man must invest before he gets her. So when she actually likes you, she doubles down on this conditioning. She tells herself, if I make it too easy, he won't value me. If I admit I like him first, he'll pull away. And so she puts on the act. She'll act aloof, she'll delay responses, she'll test your patience. But beneath that facade is often a girl battling with her own feelings, terrified of giving them away. It's not that she doesn't feel, it's that she feels too much, and the fear of exposure keeps her silent. What you'll notice instead are contradictions. She ignores you when she wants to talk to you most. She pulls away after moments of connection. She teases you instead of complimenting you. To a man, this feels insane. Why hide interest? But to her, it's instinct, it's survival. It's the only way she believes she can keep your attention. Because in her mind, if she lays her heart bare, she risks rejection. And rejection is a wound most women can't stomach. So she hides her vulnerability under layers of indifference, hoping you'll see through it without her having to say a word. This is why so many men misinterpret female behavior. They think disinterest means rejection, but often it's the opposite. The colder she is, the more invested she may be. The more she pulls back, the more she feels, because for her, showing warmth is terrifying. It gives you the power to accept or reject her. But keeping distance allows her to maintain the illusion of control. This is why men who chase too hard often ruin everything. They break the delicate dance by overexposing their own hand before she's ready. Women rarely reveal their attraction until they feel safe enough to do so. And safety for her isn't just about trust. It's about knowing you won't run if she drops the act. The irony is that the women who like you most will often act like they don't, and the women who don't care will shower you with attention because they have nothing to lose. This is why so many men get tricked into chasing the wrong women. They confuse availability with desire, when in reality, true desire is often hidden. That's why a woman who really likes you might avoid eye contact, act shy, or even get sarcastic. It's not because she isn't drawn to you, it's because she is. But showing it feels like stepping off a cliff. And most women would rather play the game than risk the fall. When a woman genuinely likes you, she is caught in an inner conflict that most men will never truly understand. On one hand, she feels an instinctive pull toward you. Her body language shifts, her tone softens, her eyes search for you, even in a crowded room. But on the other hand, her fear of vulnerability kicks in stronger than ever. She knows that the moment she reveals her attraction, the power dynamic changes. Suddenly, she's no longer the one being pursued, she's the one doing the pursuing. And because women are conditioned to believe that their value comes from being chosen, not from doing the choosing, she resists this exposure with everything she has. So what does she do instead? She buries her interest under masks. She'll act distracted when you enter the room, even though her heart races. She'll act like she doesn't notice you, even though you're the only one she sees. This duality is maddening for men, because it's designed to confuse, yet to her, it's a survival mechanism. It's how she tests your persistence, your strength, and your ability to read what's not being spoken. The fascinating part is that her silence and indifference often aren't rejection. They're her way of protecting herself from the risk of being rejected first. Think about it. Women have been conditioned to fear humiliation in ways men often overlook. For a man, rejection is painful, yes, but it's also part of the process. Men are expected to make the first move, to risk the no, to put themselves out there again and again. But for women, admitting desire is terrifying because it puts their ego and their value on the line in a way they're not used to. So when she likes you, she doesn't smile wider. She hides her smile. She doesn't lean in closer. She leans back. She doesn't compliment you. She critiques you, because criticism allows her to hide her affection behind a veil of playfulness. Every act of indifference is actually a shield, and every shield tells you more than her words ever could. Another reason women never show it when they actually like you is because attraction for them isn't logical, it's emotional, and emotions are messy, unpredictable, and hard to control. When she feels drawn to you, she doesn't fully understand why. It could be your confidence, your energy, your calmness, or simply the way you carry yourself. But because she doesn't fully understand her own attraction, she can't communicate it clearly. Instead, it leaks out in indirect ways. The way she fidgets when you're near, the way she remembers small details you told her, the way she gets defensive when another woman enters the picture. None of this will look like open affection, but all of it reveals her emotional investment. She hides her interest, not because she doesn't want you to see it, but because she's terrified of how real it feels, and realness to her is a loss of control. And here's where it gets darker. Many women will intentionally hide their interest as a way of testing you. They want to see if your frame is strong enough to withstand the uncertainty. They want to know if you'll crumble when you think she's not into you, or if you'll stay consistent in who you are. For her, attraction is not just about how you look or what you say, it's about the energy you project when you think she doesn't care. If you start chasing harder, over-explaining yourself, or begging for her validation, you fail the test. But if you remain calm, collected, and unaffected, she starts to feel something she didn't expect: respect. And respect, combined with attraction, is what creates obsession. So when she hides her feelings, it's not always because she's afraid. It's sometimes because she's trying to measure yours. The irony in all this is that men often invest their time and energy into the women who show them the most affection, while the women who are truly interested sit silently in the background, hiding their feelings. That's why so many men get blindsided when they later discover that the quiet girl, the one who seemed indifferent, was actually the one who cared the most. But because her affection was hidden, they mistook it for disinterest and ignored her. This is one of the cruelest dynamics of attraction. Women who like you the most will make you doubt yourself the hardest. They will confuse you, frustrate you, and make you think you're wasting your time. But if you pay attention to the subtle signs, the way she looks at you when she thinks you're not watching, the way she suddenly gets quiet around you, the way she deflects when others tease her about you, you'll see the truth she refuses to admit. Women never show it when they actually like you, not because they can't, but because doing so feels like surrender. And for her, surrender is terrifying. When a woman actually likes you, one of the strongest giveaways is her inconsistency. She'll act warm one moment, cold the next. She'll text you and then vanish. She'll give you a smile that feels like the whole world, only to ignore you the next day. To the untrained eye, this looks like disinterest, even rejection, but in reality, it's her battling herself. She feels drawn to you, but she doesn't want you to know, so she oscillates, giving you a glimpse, then pulling it back. That inconsistency isn't random, it's strategy. It's her way of controlling the pace of exposure, revealing her feelings in doses, never enough to lose her edge. Men who mistake this inconsistency for lack of interest often walk away too soon, missing the fact that her confusion was proof of how much she cared. Another way women hide their attraction is through what seems like disapproval. She might criticize you lightly, mock you, or call out your flaws. On the surface, it feels like she's not impressed. But look deeper. That criticism is a mask. It's how she shields her feelings. By teasing or mocking, she keeps herself from looking like she's falling for you too fast. She's protecting her ego while still staying engaged. In fact, many times, the woman who critiques you the most is the one who likes you the most, because her words may be sharp, but her actions betray her. She notices details, she pays attention, she invests in your presence. That's not disinterest, that's concealed admiration. Women also hide their feelings because they live in fear of losing the upper hand. To them, vulnerability feels like surrender, and surrender means you could hurt them, abandon them, or stop valuing them. This is why a woman who likes you will often act as though she has other options, even when she doesn't. She'll mention other men or pretend to be busier than she really is, not because she's not interested, but because she wants to maintain the illusion of choice. It's her way of protecting her pride. She doesn't want you to know that you're the only one she's thinking about, and so she crafts the story that she's detached, when in reality, she's deeply invested. But here's the paradox. The more she hides her feelings, the deeper they actually run. A woman who has no interest will show you everything. She'll be available, easygoing, and open because she has nothing to lose. but the woman who likes you will guard herself like a fortress. She'll give you mixed signals, subtle hints, and hidden gestures. She'll smile at something you said hours later when no one's around. She'll remember the smallest things about you, even though she pretends she doesn't care. Her silence speaks louder than any words, because for her, to reveal is to risk. And the greater the risk, the greater the feeling she's protecting. The most dangerous part is this: men often give up right before she breaks. Because her hidden interest looks like indifference, men assume she doesn't care and walk away. But if you had held your frame, if you had stayed calm and consistent, her walls would have eventually cracked. That's when women reveal themselves, when they've tested your patience and seen that you won't lose yourself in the process. The man who can withstand her silence, her games, her contradictions, is the man she respects. And once respect joins attraction, she can't hold back forever. That's when she finally lets her guard down, finally admits what she's been feeling all along. And most men never see that moment because they couldn't survive the storm to reach the calm. What makes this dynamic so difficult for men is that we are wired to interpret signals in a straightforward way. If someone is warm, we assume they like us. If they are cold, we assume they don't. But women don't operate like that when they are truly attracted. The colder she acts, the more she may be fighting feelings she doesn't want to reveal. This is where so many men trip up. They take her words at face value rather than studying her patterns. A woman can say she's not interested while her body language is screaming attraction. She might cross her arms but still keep her feet pointed toward you. She might avoid eye contact but hang around longer than she needs to. She might act unimpressed, yet remember a detail you told her weeks ago. All of these contradictions are evidence of hidden desire, but only men who are patient, observant, and grounded enough will catch them. The rest will believe the mask and miss the truth behind it. Part of why women never show it when they actually like you comes down to control of the narrative. She wants to keep the power of the story in her hands. If she admits she likes you, the story shifts. You now have the power to decide whether to accept or reject her. That feels too risky, so instead she cloaks her feelings under behaviors that appear neutral or dismissive. She might play the friend role, acting casual, even when her heart skips beats around you. She might make sarcastic jokes to downplay the tension she feels. She might talk about other men to deflect from her actual interest. Each of these behaviors is a smokescreen, designed to keep her safe from the vulnerability of honesty. But beneath that smoke, the fire burns strong. It is not that she doesn't feel, it's that she feels too much. And the only way she knows how to protect herself is to pretend she doesn't. This also explains why women often seem to invest more in men who aren't giving them obvious validation. When she likes you, she becomes hypersensitive to how much attention she's receiving. If you give her too much too soon, she pulls away because she doesn't want to feel like she's surrendered her value. But when you remain balanced, not cold, but not overgiving, she becomes more curious, more drawn in. She wonders why you're not giving her the same level of pursuit other men do. She wonders what makes you different, what makes you harder to read, and that curiosity grows into obsession. Ironically, the less you chase her when she's hiding her feelings, the more likely she is to reveal them in time. Because she realizes she can't rely on you to do all the work. If she wants you, she'll eventually have to show it. Women also hide their attraction because they crave to be chosen, not to be the chooser. To openly reveal that she likes you feels to her like flipping that dynamic. Instead of being pursued, she would be doing the pursuing. And that runs counter to everything she has been taught about relationships and value. That's why a woman can be deeply in love with a man and still act as though she's indifferent. She wants him to come to the conclusion on his own. She wants to feel that he saw her, chose her, and valued her without her needing to spell it out. This is why men often feel like women play games. To women, it's not necessarily a game, it's protection of her self-worth. But to men who operate more directly, it feels manipulative and confusing. The tragedy is that both perspectives are valid. She's guarding her vulnerability, and you're looking for clarity. The irony in all this is that women will often drop hints that only a man with strong perception will notice. She'll position herself near you without speaking. She'll ask questions that seem random, but are really her way of keeping a connection alive. She'll find reasons to touch you casually, brushing against your arm, fixing your collar, laughing with a hand on your shoulder. None of this will look like a confession of interest, but all of it is deliberate. She's giving you crumbs, hoping you'll read between the lines. And here's the catch. If you miss those subtle hints, she won't clarify. She won't say, "Actually, I like you." She'll simply pull away, convincing herself that you weren't interested. That's the hidden cost of her secrecy. Many connections die before they even begin, because both sides are too afraid of exposing themselves. One of the biggest reasons women never show it when they actually like you is because they are terrified of losing the emotional advantage. Women know, whether consciously or instinctively, that the one who shows more investment first usually holds less leverage in the relationship. So even when she's deeply attracted, she'll go out of her way to conceal it, to throw you off, to maintain that delicate illusion of power. She'll pretend not to notice you when you walk into the room, even though she's already scanned every detail of your presence. She'll delay her replies, not because she's busy, but because she doesn't want you to think she was waiting on your text. She'll smile when you're gone, not when you're near, because smiling when you're near would give too much away. All of these micro behaviors are carefully constructed defenses built to shield her vulnerability. But ironically, the more effort she puts into hiding, the more obvious she becomes to the man who pays attention. Because the truth always leaks out, her eyes linger too long, her laughter comes too quickly, her silence feels too loaded. She thinks she's hiding desire, but she's only revealing it in ways she can't control. And this is why men who chase aggressively often lose women they could have won. When she hides her feelings, she's testing, not consciously, but emotionally. She wants to see if you'll maintain your composure, if you'll continue to stand firm in your frame, even when she's giving you mixed signals. The man who panics, who over-explains, who floods her with attention at the first sign of resistance, proves that he doesn't understand female psychology. He gives up his power willingly, handing her the control she was testing him for in the first place. But the man who remains calm, patient, and observant, the man who doesn't flinch when she hides her interest, this man forces her to reveal herself, because sooner or later, her attraction grows too strong to contain, and when she realizes you're not breaking, she'll break instead. She'll slip, she'll show her hand, she'll expose the very feelings she fought so hard to conceal. And in that moment, you win. Not by chasing, but by enduring. What men must understand is that a woman's love is often expressed indirectly. When she likes you, she might talk about you to her friends, but act cold in front of you. She might dress up when she knows you'll be around, but play it off like coincidence. She might argue with you about meaningless things, not because she's angry, but because it's safer to show irritation than affection. Every layer of indifference is a shield for the softness she's terrified to expose. And this is why so many relationships never even begin, because men misinterpret her defenses as disinterest, and women refuse to drop the mask until a man earns it. The cruel irony is that the men she doesn't care about get the easiest smiles, the fastest replies, the most openness, but the man she actually likes, he gets the opposite treatment, precisely because she values his opinion the most. That's the paradox men must learn to decode. Sometimes the coldest behavior comes from the warmest heart. Another factor is fear of judgment. Women know that once they reveal they like someone, the man might change how he sees them. Maybe he'll think she's easy. Maybe he'll think she's desperate. Maybe he'll think he can relax now because he has her. These thoughts run through her mind constantly, creating hesitation. So instead of showing her interest, she hides it under layers of aloofness. She may even go so far as to act like she doesn't like you at all, because in her mind, rejection in disguise is safer than rejection out loud. If she acts indifferent and you don't reciprocate, she can tell herself it was just an act anyway. But if she reveals her true feelings and you reject her, that wound cuts deeper than she's willing to bear. That's why secrecy becomes her default mode. It's the only way she can protect her ego while still indulging her attraction. At the heart of it, women never show it when they actually like you because their entire strategy for survival in the dating world depends on keeping you uncertain. Uncertainty keeps you invested. Uncertainty keeps you chasing. Uncertainty keeps you wondering, analyzing, and competing. And as long as you're uncertain, she doesn't have to risk her own vulnerability. This is why the women who truly like you are often the hardest to read. They're not emotionless. They're masters of disguise. But once you understand this dynamic, once you see through the masks, you'll never be fooled again. You'll stop mistaking coldness for disinterest and attention for love. You'll start watching patterns instead of words, actions instead of excuses. And most importantly, you'll stop doubting yourself when her signals don't make sense, because now you know the silence, the indifference, the contradictions, they're not absence of feeling, they're the very proof that she feels too much. The brilliance of this hidden game women play is that it often makes men chase harder. When she withholds her feelings, men interpret it as a challenge. They think, if she isn't showing interest, I must need to prove myself more. So they start overcompensating, texting more often, giving more compliments, offering more attention. But this is exactly why she hides her interest in the first place. She knows that once you feel uncertain, you'll chase her to regain clarity. This means she doesn't need to risk rejection because you'll do the work of pursuing her even when she's the one secretly invested. The more she withholds, the more energy you give, and by the time you realize the imbalance, you've already revealed your hand while she still holds hers close to her chest. But there's a dark side to this tactic that women rarely consider. Hiding true interest too long can backfire. Men who understand their own value won't chase uncertainty. They won't beg for clarity. They won't interpret her aloofness as a mystery. They'll interpret it as disinterest and move on. And when that happens, she loses the very man she was trying to protect her feelings for. That's why so many women end up regretting the games they played. They'll sit with their friends months later and confess, "I really liked him, but I didn't want him to know." And by then it's too late. The man has already built a life elsewhere with someone who didn't make him guess. So while hiding interest feels safe in the moment, in the long run, it often costs women the men they truly valued. Another subtle sign that a woman actually likes you despite hiding it is her heightened emotional reactions. She might act indifferent most of the time, but then suddenly overreact to something small you say. Maybe you mention another woman casually, and she gets defensive. Maybe you tease her about something harmless, and she snaps back sharper than expected. These spikes of emotion reveal what her mask tries to conceal, her investment in you. Indifference doesn't overreact. True disinterest doesn't care enough to get upset. But hidden attraction leaks out in strong bursts of emotion because her feelings are too big to stay suppressed forever. And if you're paying attention, those moments are golden. They tell you more about her real emotions than weeks of surface-level behavior ever could. The irony is that women often want men to just know how they feel, even when they're doing everything to hide it. They think subtle hints should be enough. A lingering glance, a slight change in tone, a hesitation before walking away. To her, these micro-expressions are obvious because she feels them so strongly inside, but to men, they're barely noticeable unless the man is grounded, observant, and attuned to subtleties. This is why grounded men are more attractive. They don't panic when signals are unclear, and they don't force clarity out of desperation. They sit back, observe, and let her patterns reveal themselves over time. And in that patience, they earn the respect and attraction she was too afraid to express directly. Ultimately, the reason women never show it when they actually like you is because for them, love is less about declaring and more about protecting. They protect their hearts, their pride, and their position in the dynamic. They fear that showing interest makes them look desperate, that admitting affection makes them vulnerable, that dropping the act means risking it all. But the deeper truth is this: her silence is not your enemy, it's your opportunity. If you understand that hidden attraction looks like distance, if you learn to read the signs behind the mask, if you stop doubting yourself when her behavior doesn't align with her feelings, you gain the ability to see reality as it is, not as she wants it to appear. And once you see that, you'll never be confused by women again. You'll stop chasing signals and start reading truth, and that truth will set you free. When a woman hides her true feelings, what she's really doing is creating a buffer between her heart and potential rejection. She may appear cold, distant, or even dismissive, but that exterior is armor. It's not because she doesn't care, it's because she cares too much. She tells herself that if she pretends not to be interested, she can avoid the sting of vulnerability. Yet the irony is that the stronger her feelings, the heavier the armor becomes. This is why so many men feel like they're misreading signals. The more invested she secretly is, the more she'll act like she isn't. Her denial isn't a lack of attraction. It's a reflection of how deeply she fears being hurt. If those feelings are not reciprocated, this defense mechanism often plays out in subtle avoidance. She might deliberately avoid sitting too close to you in a group, not because she doesn't want to, but because she's afraid someone will notice how comfortable she feels around you. She might keep her replies short and detached, but the moment you take longer to respond, she notices instantly. She might act like she's focused on other things when you're around, but she's hyper-aware of your every move. Women who truly like you often create distance on purpose, not because they want less of you, but because they want to disguise just how much they need you. It's a performance, a carefully crafted illusion of indifference designed to shield her vulnerability while secretly hoping you see through it. Another reason women hide their attraction is because they want to know what kind of man you are under pressure. If she never shows interest, will you panic? Will you beg? Will you overinvest in someone who gives little back? Or will you hold your ground, respecting yourself enough not to chase ambiguity? To her, this is a test, not always consciously, but emotionally. She knows that the man who falls apart under uncertainty will crumble under bigger pressures in a relationship. But the man who remains calm when signals are mixed, that man demonstrates strength, patience, and discipline, the exact qualities she craves, even while pretending she doesn't. So when she hides her attraction, she's not just protecting herself. She's watching you, measuring your frame, deciding if you're worthy of seeing the part of her she never shows. Women also hide their feelings because exposure strips them of their greatest weapon, mystery. The unknown keeps you engaged, keeps you thinking, keeps you chasing. And as long as you don't know how she feels, you invest more energy trying to solve the puzzle. But here's the catch. Once she knows you're hooked, she may slowly reveal her hand, because then she feels safe enough to let her guard down, knowing you won't vanish the moment she exposes herself. Until that safety exists, she'll continue to wear the mask, and this is where most men make the fatal mistake. They try to force clarity too soon. They push for answers, confessions, and validation, not realizing that the more you push, the more she withdraws. The paradox is this: when you stop demanding proof of her feelings, you often get it. In the end, a woman who never shows it when she actually likes you is not being cruel, she's being human. She's tangled in her own fears, her own conditioning, her own survival instincts in the dating world. But once you understand this, once you stop expecting women to show love the way men do, everything changes. You stop taking her coldness personally. You stop chasing after validation. You stop doubting yourself when her actions contradict her emotions. Instead, you stay grounded, observe, and let her reveal herself in her own time. And when she finally does, when the walls drop, when the mask slips, when the truth leaks out, you'll see something rare. You'll see the raw, unguarded affection of a woman who wanted you all along, but was too afraid to admit it. And that moment is worth every ounce of patience. The silence she keeps when she actually likes you is not just about protecting herself, it's also about magnifying you. Women instinctively know that desire grows in the space of uncertainty. When she holds back, when she doesn't confess, when she hides, she knows you'll think about her more. You'll replay interactions, analyze her words, and question her intentions. That uncertainty makes you invest more mental energy in her than you would if she had simply admitted her attraction. It's not that she's consciously manipulating you, it's that her psychology has been shaped to preserve her value through mystery. And the man who understands this stops getting frustrated by the lack of clarity. He learns to see her restraint for what it is, an unspoken admission that she feels more than she dares to show. This is why the women who truly like you will often act like they have endless options, even when they don't. She'll mention other men casually, she'll emphasize her independence, she'll carry herself like she doesn't need anyone. To a man who doesn't understand, this looks like a wall of rejection, but in reality, it's often her way of saying, I'm interested, but you'll have to prove that you can stand firm, even when I don't make it easy. Women don't want to feel like they gave themselves to a man too quickly, because once that happens, they fear he'll devalue her. So she creates obstacles, illusions, and distractions. And the irony is, the more she hides her interest, the more invested she usually is, because if she didn't care, she wouldn't bother with the performance at all. Another powerful truth is that women are far more afraid of their own feelings than men are. When a man likes a woman, he may hesitate, but eventually he'll risk making it known. For a woman, liking a man can feel like losing control. She knows her emotions are intense, and she knows that if she lets them show, they might overwhelm her judgment. So she buries them, conceals them, and acts detached. She might even convince herself she doesn't like you as much as she does, just to maintain her composure. But the reality is, the deeper the denial, the stronger the attraction. That's why men who pay attention to subtle cues, her tone of voice, her hesitation, her unexplained changes in behavior, can see the truth long before she's ready to admit it. And here's the paradox that confuses men the most. The women who don't actually like you will show it more than the ones who do. A woman with no investment will smile, flirt, compliment, and engage openly because she has nothing to lose. She doesn't care if you reject her because she was never emotionally tied to you. But the woman who's truly drawn to you will do the opposite. She'll conceal, deflect, and withhold, precisely because she has everything to lose. That's why the boldest, most flirtatious women often aren't the ones who actually want you, while the quiet, reserved, or seemingly indifferent woman might be the one losing sleep over you at night. It's backwards, but it's how female psychology operates. The more she feels, the less she shows. Ultimately, the man who wins in this dynamic is the one who doesn't chase clarity, but instead stands firm in uncertainty. He doesn't demand she confess her feelings. He doesn't crumble when she hides behind aloofness. He doesn't second-guess his worth just because she won't say what she feels. Instead, he trusts himself, reads the patterns, and remains grounded. He understands that a woman's silence is not proof of absence, but proof of intensity. And because he doesn't force her hand, she eventually feels safe enough to drop the act. That's when she reveals the truth. She tried so hard to hide that she liked you all along, that she was afraid of showing it, and that your strength in holding your ground was what made her respect you enough to finally admit it. When a woman hides her feelings, it often creates a dangerous illusion that she doesn't care, but the truth is that her silence is usually the loudest indicator of all. Think about it. If she truly had no interest, she wouldn't need to hide anything. She wouldn't need to construct defenses or act indifferent. She would simply move on without hesitation. But when she goes out of her way to act like she's unaffected, when she carefully measures her responses, when she creates distance where closeness wants to exist, that effort itself is proof that there's something burning beneath the surface. Her detachment isn't emptiness, it's a disguise, and for the man who can see past the act, her very attempt at hiding becomes the clearest sign of all. This is also why women often confuse men by oscillating between extremes. One day she's cold, the next she's unexpectedly warm. One day she ignores you, the next she brings up something you said weeks ago, showing she never forgot. This push and pull dynamic is not randomness, it's the byproduct of her inner war. She wants to move toward you, but she doesn't want to surrender. She wants to show her feelings, but she doesn't want to risk her pride, so she swings between exposure and concealment, leaving you in a state of constant questioning. And while this can feel frustrating, it's also proof of investment. Indifference is steady, attraction is chaotic. If her behavior leaves you guessing, it's often because she feels more than she wants to admit. Men often ask, why can't women just be straightforward? The answer lies in the structure of male and female psychology. Men are builders. They want clarity, direction, and certainty. Women are testers. They want to feel, to sense, to explore the emotional strength of the man before committing their vulnerability. This difference is why men often misinterpret silence as rejection, while women see it as protection. Her act of hiding is her way of ensuring that when she finally does reveal herself, it's to a man who proved worthy of seeing the unguarded version of her. That's why she delays. That's why she masks. She wants to be certain that you won't abandon her once she gives you the very thing she's been guarding. But here's the hard truth. Most men never last long enough to see through the mask. They either chase too hard and smother her, or they give up too quickly and walk away. Very few men have the patience, the self-control, and the inner strength to stand firm through the fog of her defenses, and that's exactly why those men are unforgettable. The man who doesn't flinch, who doesn't over-explain, who doesn't beg for clarity, that man becomes rare in her eyes. He's the one she can't stop thinking about, because he didn't fall into the traps that every other man does. He didn't get lost in her mixed signals. He simply remained grounded, and in that groundedness, he forced her to confront her own feelings. So when you encounter a woman who never shows it when she actually likes you, don't be discouraged by the facade. Don't assume her silence means absence. Understand it for what it is, proof of depth. The more she hides, the more she feels. The colder she acts, the warmer her heart may actually be. And if you can see through the mask, if you can read the subtle signs instead of the surface behavior, you'll discover the truth. She can't speak aloud, that she wanted you from the beginning. Not because she said it, but because she couldn't stop herself from hiding it. And that paradox, her concealment being the proof of her desire, is the ultimate secret of female psychology. The deeper you go into understanding why women never show it when they actually like you, the more you realize that it isn't about dishonesty, it's about survival. For centuries, women have been conditioned to see vulnerability as risk. If she openly admits desire, she risks rejection, she risks being taken for granted, and she risks being labeled as desperate. So she develops layers of protection: indifference, aloofness, sarcasm, delayed responses. Each of these isn't random, they're carefully cultivated shields, designed to keep her safe. But the irony is that these shields also trap her, because the more she hides, the harder it becomes for her to experience the very connection she secretly craves. Men who don't understand this take her behavior at face value and walk away, while men who see deeper recognize that the performance is actually proof of investment. This also explains why women sometimes seem more affectionate toward men they don't actually like that much. With those men, there's no risk. She can laugh openly, flirt, and be expressive, because rejection wouldn't wound her pride. But when it comes to the man she truly desires, the stakes are higher. Every look matters, every word counts, every interaction feels loaded with meaning, and that weight makes her withdraw. She doesn't want to show too much, because if she does, she fears it will shift the balance of power and expose her feelings too soon. This paradox, being colder toward the one she actually likes, is one of the most confusing aspects of female psychology. But once you grasp it, everything clicks into place. The hidden attraction often reveals itself, not in grand gestures, but in the tiny cracks of her facade. Watch how her eyes linger just a second too long before she looks away. Notice how she laughs a little louder at your jokes, even when they weren't that funny. Pay attention to how she suddenly grows quiet when other women enter the picture, or how she subtly shifts her body toward you without realizing it. These micro signals betray the truth her words won't admit. They're unconscious leaks, the emotional residue of feelings too strong to stay fully hidden. And while she may try to cover them with indifference, those cracks always give her away, if you're grounded enough to notice. The challenge for men is to resist the urge to demand clarity. The more you try to force her to confess her feelings, the more she'll retreat behind the mask. If you press her with questions like, "Do you like me?" or "Why are you acting distant?" she'll default to denial, because admitting the truth under pressure feels unsafe. But if you remain calm, patient, and observant, she eventually reveals herself in her own time. The key isn't to chase answers, it's to create an environment where she feels safe enough to lower her defenses. That safety doesn't come from begging or over-investing. It comes from holding your frame, showing consistency, and refusing to be shaken by her contradictions. At the heart of it, women never show it when they actually like you, because they are terrified of giving away what they believe is their most valuable asset: mystery. They think that once the mystery is gone, your interest will fade. And while there's some truth to that, the deeper truth is that no mystery can sustain a relationship forever. At some point, the mask has to drop. The question is whether you'll still be there when it does. That's why your job as a man isn't to chase the confession, it's to remain so grounded, so self-assured, that she eventually chooses to reveal herself without fear. When that happens, you'll see the rawest, most unfiltered version of her attraction, the one she's been hiding all along. And that moment will change how you see women forever.